Good evening, dear wanderers of the night, and welcome to Unknown Sleepers, where the quiet whispers of history guide you toward rest. As you settle into your soft blankets, perhaps with the glow of a candle flickering nearby, or the murmur of a distant breeze rustling through your window, let the cares of the day slip away like ripples on a calm sea. If these soothing tales bring you peace, we'd be honored if you'd subscribe to our channel, a small act that keeps these stories sailing across the waves of time. Tonight, we invite you to step aboard a 15th century ship where the creak of wooden planks, the flutter of canvas sails, and the soft hum of the ocean tell tales of sailors far from home, their lives shaped by the rhythm of the sea. But first, pause for a moment and picture history enthusiasts in your town, gathered under the same starry sky, their hearts warmed by tales of ancient voyages, sipping tea, or gazing at the moon. In the comments below, share where you're listening from and what time it is. Perhaps you're in a coastal village as dusk settles, a mountain town under midnight's glow, or a bustling city kissed by dawn's first light. Your words might weave a thread connecting dreamers across the globe who cherish these timeless journeys, their voices echoing like whispers on the wind. Imagine the soft scent of salt in the air, the gentle sway of a ship on the waves, or the faint glow of a lantern casting shadows on a weathered deck. Let's begin slowly and calmly as the sea unfolds its endless, tranquil tale. In the 15th century, the world was a vast expanse of oceans, winds, and dreams, where wooden ships carried sailors, traders, and explorers across uncharted waters, their hulls creaking under the weight of hope and ambition. From the rocky, wind-swept coasts of Portugal to the spice-laden ports of India, from the bustling harbors of the Ottoman Empire to the distant, jasmine-scented shores of Ming China, ships were the lifeblood of trade, discovery, and connection. These vessels, carracks, caravels, galleys, junks, and dhows, were marvels of human ingenuity, their timbers hewn from ancient forests, their sails stitched with care, their decks worn smooth by the footsteps of countless souls. As a soft sea breeze might have rustled the sails of a Portuguese caravel, its canvas billowing gently under a starry sky, sailors stood watch, their eyes fixed on the horizon, their hands steady on the ropes, their lives woven into the rhythm of the sea. Life aboard these ships was a quiet dance of routine and resilience, where the scent of tar, the creak of wooden planks, and the hum of waves became a sailor's world, a gentle cadence that shaped their days and nights. Our tale begins in early 15th century Europe, around 1400 CE, during the dawn of the age of exploration, when the oceans beckoned with promises of wealth and wonder. In Lisbon, where the Tagus River flowed past stone quays lined with fishing nets, Portuguese shipwrights crafted caravels, nimble vessels no longer than 70 feet, with lateen sails that caught the wind like the wings of a seabird. These ships, their hulls corked with pitch and oakum, groaned softly as they rocked on the Atlantic's gentle swells, their timbers seasoned by the salt and sun. A caravel's crew, often 20 to 40 men, worked in harmony, their hands calloused from years. At sea, their faces weathered by the wind. As the first light of dawn touched the sails, casting golden shadows across the deck, the boatswain's whistle, a shrill note carried by the breeze, signaled the start of the day's duties. The scent of salt and wet wood filled the air, mingling with the faint tang of tar, as sailors hauled ropes, their muscles straining, their voices low as they sang shanties to ease the work, their words blending with the waves' soft murmur. The deck, Scrubbed daily with holy stones, chunks of sandstone that rasped against the wood gleamed under the sun, its surface worn smooth by countless footsteps, its grain polished by the sea's embrace. Aboard the caravel, time was measured. By the ship's bell, a bronze chime rung every half hour to mark the watch, its sound echoing across the deck like a gentle heartbeat. 4-hour shifts known as watches divided the day and night, ensuring the ship never slept, its crew always vigilant. The helmsman, stationed at the whipstaff, a wooden lever that turned the rudder, steered by the stars, his eyes tracing the pole star's steady glow through the night's velvet curtain. As the soft creak of the rudder echoed from below, the navigator consulted a quadrant, its brass frame glinting in the lantern's flickering light, to plot the ship's course across the vast ocean. The captain, often a nobleman clad in a velvet cloak, stood on the quarterdeck, his voice calm and measured as he issued orders, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Meals were simple, served in wooden bowls on the swaying deck. Hardtack biscuits, as hard as stone, paired with dried fish and watered wine, their flavors dulled by the sea's briny air. The cook, working in a cramped galley where a small firebox glowed, stirred pots with a wooden spoon, the smoke curling upward, blending with the scent of boiled peas and salt pork. As sailors gathered, their hands warmed by the rough-hewn bowls, they shared tales of distant ports, Lisbon's cobbled streets, the Azores' green hills, their voices a soft hum against the waves' gentle lapping. Sleeping quarters were tight, with sailors slung in hammocks below deck, where the air was thick with the smell of tar, sweat, and damp wood. The hammocks, woven from coarse canvas, swayed with the ship's motion, offering little comfort, but lulling the men to sleep with the creak of timbers and the hum of the sea. By night, the deck was quiet, save for the watchman's soft footsteps and the flutter of sails catching the breeze. A lantern hung from the mainmast cast a golden glow, its light dancing on the waves like fireflies on a summer night. The fear of storms lingered in every sailor's heart, but their faith in saints like Nicholas, patron of mariners, kept their spirits steady. As a cool breeze swept across the deck, they might have whispered prayers, their voices blending with the rustle of canvas, seeking protection from the sea's unpredictable whims. The ship's bell, rung softly in the stillness, was a reminder of time's gentle passage, a quiet nudge to pause and reflect on the journey ahead. Families back in Lisbon, gathered at the quay or in candlelit homes, might have prayed for their loved ones, their voices low, their hands warmed by clay cups as they shared bread, their hearts tied to the sailors' distant voyage. By the mid-15th century, Spanish ships joined the Portuguese in exploring the Atlantic, their sails billowing under the same starry skies. In Seville, where the Guadalquivir River shimmered under moonlight, shipwrights built carracks, larger, sturdier vessels up to 100 feet long, designed for long voyages across treacherous waters. These ships, their high forecastles and stern castles, looming over the deck, carried crews of 50 or more, their holds packed with trade goods, wool, wine, and olive oil, stacked in barrels that creaked with every wave. The carrack's hull, reinforced with iron nails, groaned under the weight, its timbers seasoned by the Mediterranean sun. As the scent of oak and pitch filled the air, sailors climbed the rigging, their bare feet gripping the coarse ropes, their eyes scanning the sea for the faint outline of land. The ship's carpenter, armed with an adze and mallet, worked tirelessly, his hammer's soft tap blending with the waves' murmur as he repaired leaks or patched splintered planks. The deck, swept clean by the crew, glistened under the sun, its boards worn smooth by the sea's endless caress. Navigation on a carrack was both art and ritual, blending skill with the sailors' quiet superstitions. The astrolabe, a bronze disc etched with celestial patterns, measured the sun's height at noon, its weight steady in the navigator's calloused hands. By night, the cross-staff, a wooden tool with sliding crosspieces, aligned with the stars, guiding the ship's path through the darkness. Sailors, wary of the unknown, carried charms, shells, saint medallions, or knotted cords tucked into their woolen tunics, their fingers brushing the tokens for luck. As the soft splash of waves against the hull echoed through the night, they might have shared stories of sea monsters or mermaids, their voices hushed, their laughter fading into the sea's gentle hum. The ship's log, a parchment book bound, in leather, recorded each day's progress, its pages smudged by the damp air, its ink bleeding faintly. The captain, seated in his small cabin, might have written by candlelight, his quill scratching softly against the parchment, noting the wind's direction, the crew's health, and the sea's mood. The astrolabe's glint, catching the lantern's golden glow, was a reminder of the stars' eternal watch, a gentle nudge to trust the heavens' guidance. Food was a constant challenge, with supplies stored in barrels below deck, where the air was heavy with the scent of brine and mold. Hardtack biscuits, often crawling with weevils, were soaked in watered wine to soften their stone-like texture, their crunch muffled by the sea's ceaseless hum. Salted pork, dried beans, and olives were staples, their flavors dulled by months at sea, their surfaces dusted with salt. The cook, sweating in the galley's dim confines, stirred pots over. A smoky fire, his apron stained with grease, his hands rough from years of toil. As the scent of boiled lentils drifted across the deck, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by wooden spoons, their eyes fixed on the horizon as they shared tales of home, Seville's orange groves, the laughter of children in dusty streets. Water stored in oak casks grew stale, its taste masked by a splash of vinegar or a pinch of herbs. The ship's goat, kept for milk, bleated softly, its hooves scuffing the deck, its presence a small comfort in the vastness of the sea. As a cool breeze carried the scent of salt and seaweed, sailors might have sipped their rations, their thought, drifting to fresh bread and clean water, their hearts steadied by the ship's gentle sway. Hygiene was minimal, with saltwater baths taken on deck under the sun's warm gaze. A bucket dipped into the sea, splashed over the sailors, its chill a brief relief from the heat, its droplets sparkling like jewels in the light. Clothes, stiff with salt and sweat, were rarely washed, their woolen fibers worn thin by wind and spray, their colors faded to muted grays. As the soft creak of the ship's timbers echoed through the day, men shaved with iron knives, their faces lit by the sun's golden rays, their reflections faint in the sea's glassy surface. The ship's surgeon, often a barber by trade, treated ailments with herbs, rosemary for fevers, lavender for wounds, his hands steady as he bandaged cuts or pulled aching teeth. The scent of lavender oil, used to mask the stench below deck, lingered faintly, blending with the sea's briny air, a quiet reminder of care amidst hardship. Families back in Seville, gathered in churches with stone walls, might have lit candles, their flames flickering in the dim light, their prayers whispered for the sailors' health, their voices soft as they sought divine protection from the sea's perils. Leisure was rare but cherished, a fleeting respite from the sea's demands. On calm evenings, when the sea was a mirror under a starry sky, sailors gathered on the deck, their voices low, playing dice carved from whalebone or wood. The clatter of the dice, rolling on a wooden crate, mingled with the waves' gentle lapping, their sound a soft counterpoint to the sea's endless song. Others mended sails, their needles glinting in the lantern's light, their fingers nimble despite the cold, their stitches tight against the wind's pull. As the scent of tar and hemp drifted across the deck, a sailor might strum a lute, its notes soft and mournful, carrying across the water like a lullaby for the sea. Stories of distant lands, spices in Calicut, silks in Cathay, gold in Timbuktu, filled the air. Their words a quiet hum, their dreams woven into the night. The ship's cat, a tabby with eyes like jade, hunted rats below deck, its purr a small comfort in the darkness, its warmth sought by sailors in the chill of night. As the stars unfolded above, their light a tapestry of ancient patterns, sailors might have shared a flask of wine, their hands warmed by clay cups, their hearts lifted by the sea's endless, tranquil rhythm. In the Mediterranean, Genoese and Venetian galleys thrived, their long, narrow hulls cutting through turquoise waves with the precision of a blade. In Genoa, where the scent of olive oil and rosemary hung heavy in the air, galleys were built for trade and war, their oars dipping rhythmically into the sea, their timbers painted with saints and crescents. These ships, often 120 feet long, carried crews of 100 or more, including rowers, hired men or captives, who sat on benches, their muscles straining as the drumbeat set the pace, its thud a steady pulse against the waves' murmur. As the soft splash of oars echoed through the day, the captain stood at the stern, his eyes scanning the horizon for pirate sails or merchant fleets, his voice calm as he issued orders. The galley's deck, lined with barrels of wine, cloth, and spices, swayed gently, its timbers creaking under the weight of cargo and ambition. Families in Genoa, gathered in marble churches with vaulted ceilings, might have prayed for the galley's safe return, their voices low, their hands warmed by wax candles as they sought protection from the sea's dangers. Navigation on galleys relied on dead reckoning, with pilots noting the wind's direction and the ship's speed, their calculations scratched onto slates with chalk. A compass, its needle floating in a wooden box filled with water, pointed north, its glow faint in the lantern's light, its quiver a quiet guide through the night. By night, the stars guided the way, their patterns memorized by the pilots. Steady gaze, their names whispered like prayers: Orion, Cassiopeia, the Great Bear. As the scent of rosemary drifted from the galley's kitchen, where the cook stirred a pot of fish stew, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by clay bowls, their voices soft as they shared tales of Constantinople's golden domes or Alexandria's bustling markets. The ship's banner, embroidered with a saint's image or a merchant's crest, fluttered softly in the breeze, its colors faded by the sun's relentless gaze. The pilot, seated on the deck, might have traced the stars with a weathered finger, his heart steady with the knowledge of countless voyages, his thoughts drifting to home. The compass's needle, quivering slightly in its box, was a reminder of the heavens' watch, a gentle nudge to trust the sea's embrace. In the Ottoman Empire, by 1450 CE, galleys and merchant ships sailed the Aegean and Black Seas, their prows slicing through waves under skies heavy with stars. In Istanbul, where the Bosphorus gleamed like polished silver under moonlight, shipwrights built vessels with curved prows, their hulls painted with verses from the Quran, their timbers hewn from Anatolian oaks. The crew, a mix of Turks, Greeks, and Arabs worked in harmony, their hands steady on the ropes, their voices low as they hauled sails or scrubbed the deck. As the soft call to prayer echoed from a distant minaret, its notes carried by the evening breeze, sailors paused. Their prayer mats unrolled on the deck, their foreheads touching the wood as they whispered devotions, their hearts lifted by faith. The ship's cook, stirring a pot of lentil soup in a clay brazier, filled the air with the scent of cumin and coriander, its warmth a small comfort amidst the sea's vastness. Families in Istanbul, gathered in tiled courtyards under plane trees, might have shared dates and flatbread, their hands warmed by clay cups, their voices soft as they spoke of the sea's wonders, their hearts tied to the sailors' distant journey. Ottoman navigation was precise, with pilots using camel devices, small, wooden boards with knotted strings, to measure the altitude of stars, their fingers counting the knots with practiced ease. The ship's log, written in elegant Arabic script on parchment, recorded each day's progress, its pages crinkling in the damp air, its ink gleaming in the lantern's glow. As the scent of rosewater lingered, a faint reminder of Istanbul's bazaars, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by bowls of rice pilaf, their voices low as they shared tales of Alexandria's lighthouse or the Black Sea's stormy shores. The ship's lantern, hung from the mast, cast a soft golden glow, its light dancing on the waves like scattered coins. The pilot, seated on the deck, might have adjusted the kamal, his eyes fixed on the pole star, his heart steady with the certainty of divine guidance. The kamal's knots counted softly under his breath were a reminder of Allah's watch, a gentle nudge to trust the heavens' wisdom. In the Indian Ocean by 1470 CE, Gujarati and Malabar ships carried spices, silks and cotton across turquoise waters, their sails catching the monsoon winds. In Calicut, where the scent of cardamom and cloves hung heavy in the air, dhows with lateen sails glided gracefully, their teak hulls polished by the sea's caress. These ships, often 80 feet long, carried crews of 30 to 60, their decks piled high with coconut ropes, indigo-dyed cloth, and sacks of pepper. As the soft creak of the mast echoed through the day, sailors hauled net, their hands stained with indigo, their voices low as they sang of home, Kerala's palm-lined shores, Gujarat's bustling markets. The ship's cook, roasting fish over, a clay stove on the deck filled the air with the scent of turmeric and coconut, its warmth a small comfort amidst the sea's endless expanse. Families in Calicut, gathered in palm-shaded homes with woven mats, might have prayed for the dhow's safe return, their voices soft, their hands warmed by clay lamps as they sought protection from the monsoon's wrath. Navigation on dhows relied on the monsoon winds, their patterns known to pilots who studied the stars with unwavering focus. A rudder, a handwritten book of routes and ports, guided the way, its pages worn by salty fingers, its script faded by the sun. As the scent of sandalwood drifted from the hold, where crates of incense were stacked, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by bowls of fish curry, their voices low as they shared tales of Zanzibar's coral shores or Oman's frankincense groves. The ship's figurehead, carved as a leaping fish or a mythical bird, gleamed under the sun, its wood polished by the waves' gentle touch. The pilot, seated on the deck, might have consulted the rudder, his eyes tracing the faded script, his heart steady with the knowledge of countless voyages. The star's glow, reflected on the water's glassy surface, was a reminder of the heavens' watch, a gentle nudge to trust the sea's rhythm. In Ming China, by 1420 CE, Admiral Zheng He's treasure ships sailed the South China Sea and beyond, their massive hulls a testament to imperial ambition. In Nanjing, where the scent of jasmine and lotus blossoms filled the air, these junks, some 400 feet long, dwarfing European carracks, carried hundreds of sailors, their decks lined with crates of silk, porcelain, and tea. As the soft splash of oars echoed through the morning mist, sailors worked the sails, their hands steady on bamboo ropes, their voices low as they sang of the emperor's glory, their words blending with the sea's gentle hum. The ship's cook, steaming rice in a vast iron wok, filled the air with the scent of ginger and sesame, its warmth a small comfort amidst the sea's vastness. Families in Nanjing, gathered in wooden halls with paper screens, might have shared tea, their hands warmed by clay cups, their voices soft as they spoke of the sea's wonders, their hearts tied to the sailors' distant journey. Chinese navigation was advanced, with magnetic compasses, needles floating in lacquered bowls, guiding the way their quivers a quiet guide through the night. Star charts inked on silk mapped the heavens, their patterns memorized by navigators trained in the imperial court. The ship's log, written in elegant calligraphy, recorded each day's progress, its pages crinkling in the damp air, its ink gleaming in the lantern's glow. As the scent of lotus blossoms lingered, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by bowls of noodle soup, their voices low as they shared tales of Java's lush jungles or Malacca's vibrant markets. The ship's dragon banner, its silk embroidered with gold thread, fluttered softly in the breeze, its colors faded by the sun's relentless gaze. The navigator, seated on the deck, might have adjusted the compass, his eyes fixed on the stars, his heart steady with the weight of imperial duty. The compass's needle, pointing north, was a reminder of the heavens' watch, a gentle nudge to trust the sea's embrace. In West Africa, by 1450 CE, Songhai and Mali traders sailed the Niger river and coastal waters, their canoes and small ships carrying gold, salt, and cola nuts. In Gao, where the scent of shea butter and millet filled the air, wooden vessels with woven sails glided across calm waters, their hulls carved from baobab trees. These ships, often 40 feet long, carried crews of 10 to 20, their decks piled with sacks of grain and clay pots of palm oil. As the soft splash of paddles echoed through the morning mist, sailors worked the sails, their hands steady on hemp ropes, their voices low as they sang of home, Timbuktu's mud-brick mosques, Gao's bustling markets. The ship's cook, roasting yams over a clay brazier, filled the air with the scent of smoke and spice, its warmth a small comfort amidst the river's gentle flow. Families in Gao, gathered in courtyards under acacia trees, might have prayed for the ship's safe return, their voices soft, their hands warmed by clay lamps as they sought protection from the river's currents. Navigation on West African ships relied on the stars and river landmarks, with pilots noting the position of constellations or the shape of distant hills. A wooden staff marked with notches measured the sun's height, its shadow a quiet guide through the day. As the scent of cola nuts drifted from the hold, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by bowls of millet porridge, their voices low as they shared tales of Benin's bronze palaces or Senegal's sandy shores. The ship's prow, carved with a fish or bird, gleamed under the sun, its wood polished by the river's touch. The pilot, seated on the deck, might have traced the stars, his finger pausing on the Milky Way, his heart steady with the knowledge of countless journeys. The star's glow, reflected on the river's glassy surface, was a reminder of the ancestors' watch, a gentle nudge to trust the water's rhythm. In Polynesia, by 1400 CE, navigators sailed vast oceans in double-hulled canoes, their sails woven from pandanus leaves. In the islands of the Pacific, where the scent of coconut and frangipani filled the air, these vessels, often 60 feet long, carried crews of 10 to 30, their decks piled with taro, fish, and water gourds. As the soft crash of waves echoed through the day, sailors worked the sails, their hands steady on palm ropes, their voices low as they sang of home, Samoa's coral reefs, Tahiti's green hills. The ship's cook, roasting breadfruit over a stone oven, filled the air with the scent of charcoal and fruit, its warmth a small comfort amidst the sea's vastness. Families in Polynesia, gathered on beaches under palm trees, might have prayed for the canoe's safe return, their voices soft, their hands warmed by driftwood fires as they sought protection from the ocean's depths. Polynesian navigation was a marvel, with pilots using star paths, wave patterns, and bird migrations to guide the way. A star compass, memorized through chants, mapped the heavens, its patterns a quiet guide through the night. As the scent of Thai leaves drifted from the hold, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by woven mats, their voices low as they shared tales of Rapa Nui's stone statues or Hawaii's volcanic peaks. The ship's prow, carved with a turtle or shark, gleamed under the sun, its wood polished by the waves' touch. The pilot, seated on the deck, might have traced the stars, his eyes fixed on the Southern Cross, his heart steady with the knowledge of ancestral voyages. The star's glow, reflected on the ocean's surface, was a reminder of the gods' watch, a gentle nudge to trust the sea's rhythm. By the late 15th century, European ships ventured farther, driven by the quest for new routes to Asia and the Americas. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed from Palos, Spain, aboard the Santa Maria, a carrack with a crew of 40. As the soft creak of the ship's timbers echoed through the morning mist, sailors hauled ropes, their hands blistered from the coarse hemp, their voices low as they sang of home. Andalusia's olive groves, the laughter of children in dusty streets. The ship's cook, boiling beans in a copper pot, filled the air, with the scent of garlic and thyme, its warmth a small comfort amidst the sea's vastness. Families in Palos, gathered in stone churches with wooden pews, might have lit candles, their flames flickering in the dim light, their prayers whispered for the ship's safe return. The sails' flutter, catching the trade wind, was a gentle guide like the pulse of the sea, tying the sailors' lives to the ship's rhythm. Navigation on the Santa Maria relied on the stars and dead reckoning, with Columbus noting the ship's speed in his log, its pages crinkling in the damp air. As the scent of tar and hemp drifted across the deck, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by bowls of stew, their voices low as they shared tales of the Indies, lands of gold, spices, and endless summer. The ship's figurehead, carved as a saint with a serene gaze, gleamed under the sun, its wood polished by the waves' gentle touch. The navigator, seated on the deck, might have used a quadrant, its brass frame glinting in the lantern's glow, his eyes tracing the stars, his heart steady with the hope of discovery. The quadrant's glint, catching the lantern's golden light, was a reminder of the heavens' watch, a gentle nudge to trust the sea's embrace. On these ships was a delicate balance of hardship and camaraderie, a quiet rhythm of toil and rest. The sea's challenges, leaks that seeped through the hull, scurvy that weakened the crew, storms that lashed the deck, were met with resilience as sailors patched sails with coarse thread, shared remedies like dried apples or citrus, and huddled together under tarps during rain. As the soft hum of the wind filled the air, they gathered on the deck, their voices low, playing cards painted with faded saints or carving small figures from driftwood. The ship's bell, rung softly to mark the watches, chimed like a lullaby, its sound a gentle rhythm that wove through their days. Families across the world, from Lisbon to Nanjing, from Calicut to Gao, might have gathered under the same starry sky, their prayers whispered into the night, their hearts tied to the sailor's distant journey. The sea's endless song, carried by the breeze, was a reminder of time's gentle passage, a quiet nudge to pause and reflect on the journey's quiet beauty. The tools of the trade were simple but vital, each one a testament to human ingenuity. The sounding lead, a rope with a lead weight, measured the sea's depth, its thud against the ocean floor, a soft echo in the water. The hourglass, its sand trickling softly, timed the watches, its glass glinting in the sun's rays. As the scent of beeswax lingered, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by wooden tools, their voices low as they shared tales of shipwrecks or safe harbors. The ship's anchor, a massive iron hook, rested on the deck, its chain coiled neatly, its weight a silent promise of rest. The boatswain, standing on the forecastle, might have tested the lead, his hands steady, his eyes fixed on the water's surface, his heart steady with the knowledge of countless voyages. The hourglass's sand falling softly was a reminder of time's gentle flow, a quiet nudge to trust the sea's rhythm. Superstitions shaped the sailors' world, their beliefs a quiet thread in the fabric of their lives. A black cat crossing the deck was a sign of luck, its purr a small comfort in the night. A dolphin leaping beside the ship was a messenger of the gods, its arcs a promise of safe passage. As the soft splash of waves echoed, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by charms, shells, beads, or knotted cords, their voices low as they shared tales of omens or blessing. The ship's figurehead, carved as a saint, a dragon, or a fish, gleamed under the sun, its wood polished by the waves' touch, its presence a silent guardian. The captain, standing on the quarterdeck, might have touched a medallion, his fingers tracing its worn surface, his heart steady with faith. The dolphin's leap, catching the sun's golden light, was a reminder of the divine watch, a gentle nudge to trust the sea's embrace. Trade goods filled the holds, their scents and textures a reminder of distant lands. In European ships, barrels of wine, bolts of wool, and crates of iron tools creaked with every wave, their weight a promise of profit. In Ottoman ships, sacks of coffee, rolls of silk, and jars of rosewater gleamed in the lantern's light, their value whispered in Istanbul's bazaars. In Indian dhows, sacks of pepper, cloves, and cinnamon filled the air with spice, their aroma a quiet lure for traders. In Chinese junks, crates of porcelain, silk, and tea were stacked high, their delicate cargo a testament to imperial wealth. As the scent of spices or wine drifted, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by ropes, their voices low as they shared tales of markets or merchants. The cargo's weight, shifting softly, was a reminder of the journey's purpose, a quiet nudge to trust the sea's rhythm. Health was a constant concern, with scurvy, fevers, and injuries a quiet threat. The ship's surgeon, armed with a chest of herbs and crude tools, worked by lantern light, his hands steady as he stitched wounds or brewed teas. As the scent of chamomile lingered, sailors gathered, their hands warmed by bandages, their voices low as they shared tales of cures or miracles. The ship's water, stored in casks, was rationed carefully, its taste a quiet reminder of home. The surgeon, seated on the deck, might have crushed herbs, his mortar clinking softly, his heart steady with the hope of healing. The chamomile's scent, carried by the breeze, was a reminder of care, a gentle nudge to trust the sea's embrace. Social dynamics shaped the ship's world, with hierarchies a quiet thread in daily life. The captain, often a noble or merchant, dined on finer fare, dried fruit, cheese, in his cabin, his authority unquestioned. The boatswain, a seasoned sailor, enforced discipline, his whistle a sharp note in the air. The common sailors there, tunics patched, worked the hardest, their hands blistered, their voices low as they shared grievances or dreams. As the scent of tar lingered, they gathered, their hands warmed by ropes, their voices low as they shared tales of captains or comrades. The ship's boy, a lad of 12 or 14, scampered up the rigging, his laughter a quiet joy in the night. The captain, standing on the quarterdeck, might have shared a smile, his heart warmed by the crew's loyalty, his voice steady with command. The whistle's note, carried by the breeze, was a reminder of order, a gentle nudge to trust the ship's rhythm. The sea itself was a teacher, its lessons woven into every day. The winds shift, the waves curl, the clouds shape, all were signs read by sailors with quiet focus. As the soft hum of the sea filled the air, they gathered, their hands warmed by tools, their voices low as they shared tales of storms or calms. The ship's sails, patched and worn, caught the wind, their flutter a quiet song in the night. The helmsman, standing at the whipstaff, might have adjusted the course, his eyes fixed on the horizon, his heart steady with the sea's wisdom. The waves' curl, catching the sun's light, was a reminder of nature's watch, a gentle nudge to trust the sea's embrace. And so, dear wanderers, our long and gentle tale of life on a 15th century ship comes to a close. From the caravels of Portugal to the junks of Ming China, from the dhows of Calicut to the canoes of Polynesia, sailors lived by the rhythm of the sea, their days marked by the creak of wood, the flutter of sails, and the soft hum of waves. As you rest beneath your own starry sky, perhaps with the distant hoot of an owl or the rustle of leaves outside your window, let these ancient stories wrap you in peace, their quiet rhythms soothing your mind. If this tale has calmed your heart, we invite you to return to Unknown Sleepers for more whispers from the past, each one a gentle guide into dreams. For now, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let the sea cradle you in its timeless embrace. Good night and sleep well.